Hi, friends. It's Deanna Williston with Our Blooming Catholic Life. And guess what, friends? Latin is back. Um, it's kind of exciting with the new Pope using so much Latin, but I know for some people it's already throwing them for a loop. How I just want to say my prayers in Latin. What is he saying? What can we do? Our friend Veronica Brandt, who has given us so many wonderful resources for the little office of the Blessed Virgin Mary and learning to chant, has also had some books reprinted. She has Edward Caswall's The Catholic's Latin Instructor. And don't get upset. Let me explain. This is for the average. This is not a hardcore course. Let me read from the back. It says on the back, this book is not a complete course in Latin, but a set of exercises that give the student the vocabulary to understand the everyday prayers of the Catholic Church. The chapters of the first part are divided according to different services a Catholic could be involved in, whether in the choir or serving on the altar at Mass, or the standard hymns and prayers at benediction, and lastly a section of various prayers. The second part becomes a little more formal, including a short Latin grammar, followed by 3 courses allowing the student increasing degrees of independence. At the end comes a little dictionary and the index to both parts. The book is recommended for the use of choirs, convents, for mission schools, and for self-teaching. The cover is from a Book of Hours workshop of a master in France, and it tells you where that came from. A little bit about the author. Father Edward Caswall was a prolific translator and poet. His most well-known works are his hymns, especially his translations. He was born in 1814, the son of an Anglican clergyman, and followed in his father's footsteps, being ordained in 1839. He became involved in the Oxford movement and converted to the Catholic Church. When his wife died, he became a Catholic priest serving in the oratory of St. Philip Neri in Birmingham. And I think we've run into him several other places. So exciting, because all of that seemed familiar. I feel like it was a hymn book recently or something that we ran into him. This was originally published in London by Burns and Oates Limited. Sorry, trying to open it up. Again, it was reprinted by Veronica Brandt. You can buy that both by her channel, www.brandt.id.au. She's in Australia. The preface lets us know, so if you were worried, let's jump in here. A knowledge of Latin, however superficial, is not needed for Catholic worship. Millions of Catholics, young and old, without this knowledge, assist at Mass and other offices most devoutly and profitably to their souls, accompanying the public ritual with prayers in their own language adapted to their various conditions. Nevertheless, to those whose education admits of it, an acquaintance with those portions of the Latin liturgy which are in frequent public use must ever be a legitimate and worthy object of interest, and that such an interest largely exists among the faithful is shown by the multiplication in various countries of the missals and prayer books containing the Latin and the vernacular side by side. The aim of the Catholic's Latin instructor is simple but enough. It does not profess to teach Latin as such, but only so far as the church offices are concerned, and as regards these, only up to a certain point. It has seemed to the author that without setting to work as though a whole language had to be acquired, a sufficient familiarity with this small amount in Latin might be attained by special course of exercises, directly restricted to the end in view in dealing with the grammatical rules and their expectations as little as possible. Did you hear that, friends? Dealing with the grammar and rules as little as possible. And if it be asked what kind of persons might be likely to derive benefit from such a book, the author will reply that he had chiefly had in mind the following classes of Catholics. And we discussed that already. It's basically anyone and everyone who has an interest or may use Latin. I love that, children in mission schools learn to read English easily, and so perhaps Latin would be a lovely course to offer as well. So the material is in parts. Part 1 containing the benediction and the choir portions of the Mass, serving at Mass, and various Latin prayers in ordinary use. Part 2 has additional portions of the Mass, Requiem Mass, Litany of the Saints, Vespers, Compline, and other offices and devotions, and includes a short grammar and vocabulary. The 2 parts together are 1 volume, although Part 1, as being a kind of Catholic Latin primer, is also published separately somewhere. I don't know where, but this book is going to help you. So let's get in. We'll look at it just a bit more because it says there's 2 parts, but look at this. What? There's preparatory remarks first. So interesting little table of contents. I'll hold that up for you there. So we're going to go through, there's just a little bit on pronunciation, accents, parts of speech in Latin, the absence of articles. Latin doesn't have a and the, it doesn't have those. Oh, it has the, the. You know what I'm saying. But it does not have the. It doesn't have the. That's what I'm going for. Less number of words in Latin than a corresponding English sentence. Yes, that happens all the time. How about the cases of nouns, adjectives, pronouns, verbs, other parts of speech, transposition of words, resemblance of many Latin words to English, and you're like, that's overwhelming. How is that a preparatory remark? Yeah, all that's in 8 pages. Calm down. The exercise, so then we have chapter 1 is benediction, which is O Salvatores Hostia, the Litany of Our Lady, Tantum Ergo, a prayer, and Adoremus. That's benediction. Chapter 2 is the Mass. It has the Kyrie, the Gloria in Excelsis, the Domini Vobiscum, the Credo, the commencement of the preface, the Sanctus, the Agnus Dei, the Ite Missa Est. So if you just want to learn one particular prayer, you can just do the exercises for that particular prayer. Chapter 3 is serving at Mass, things you may need to know, the Judica Me Deus, the Confitor, the versicles, responses at the Epistle and the Gospel, the Orate in the Suscipiat, the commencement of the preface, Sed Libera Nos Amalo, etc. Chapter 4 has the various exercises and prayers, and it has section 1 and 2 there. So in Nomine, Pater Noster, Ave Maria. So in Nomine, that's the sign of the cross. Sorry, the Pater Noster, the Ave Maria, the Apostles' Creed, the Gloria Patri, Requiem Aeternam, the forms of baptism, confirmation, absolution, consecration at Mass, the rite of Holy Communion, and the Ave Verum. Section 2 includes Stations of the Cross, grace before and after meals, usual endings of the prayer said at Mass, the Angelus, the Alma Redemptoris, the Ave Regina, Regina Caeli, Salve Regina, De Profundis, and Ash Wednesday prayers. Like what? So you can look these up and do them. This is not Duolingo, friends. This is going to require some work on your part. Not a crazy amount of work, but you're going to have to do the things yourself. I will tell you, the little dictionary is what I have marked by red. I tend to use red to mark little dictionaries, and the blue is the index. The dictionary, you're going to want to get a hard sticky tab and mark, or get your separate Latin Catholic dictionary. That's going to be of great assistance to you in doing the exercises. There are a fair use of preparatory remarks, right? We said there was 8 pages. And by pages, look, it still has those generous margins of old-fashioned books, so no problem there. These preparatory remarks are really for those who are teaching themselves, but or for the teacher if you're doing this in a group. So the exercises in this book have been arranged not without reference to grammar, yet so as to require the least possible amount of it. Again, we'll say it again. If there is grammar in here, but it's more of a reference. It's there. It's not explicit. You're not memorizing declensions and things like that. It says, many persons who take delight in singing Latin, especially benediction, have never learnt a grammar of any kind, and it is for such as these in great measure that this book has been prepared. Do not therefore suppose that in order to practice the following exercises, you must previously have gone through a course of grammatical study in either English or Latin. You don't. You learned to speak English without any grammar at all by the mere force of practice and observation, and these exercises proceed in a kind of natural order, in like manner requiring little more than a slight acquaintance with the grammatical terms employed. So I'm going to say that again. While you can use the table of contents, jump to any prayer, they have been selected in order, so they're kind of giving you a foundation as you go along. Does that mean you can't jump to something in the back? No, but just know it's set up it's going to be a little bit easier if you work your way from the beginning to the end. That should make sense, but should you want to really jump ahead, try it and see if it works. If it doesn't, go back to the beginning. This is not rocket science, friends. It says you will notice the exercises consist of a Latin part and of a Latin and English part. All that you have to do is learn to construe, that is, put word for word into English, each Latin sentence as it comes by aid of the Latin and English part, to which reference is made page by page. For instance, suppose you have to learn exercise 3 at page 9. For this purpose, you turn as directed by the reference. When you go to exercise 3 at page 9, it's going to tell you to go to page 13, where under the corresponding numerals, together with a word-for-word translation, each sentence is found. Then, taking number 1, the Latin part, Caeli Ostium, you will see that Ostium means gate and Caeli means of heaven. And then again, of number 2, Redemptor signifies redeemer and mundi of the world. Having compared in this way as many sentences as you think you can easily remember, you will then shut up the translation part and, taking the Latin part quite by itself, will practice it over and over until you feel quite at home with it. Proceeding thus through all the exercises, which are limited to 6 in each chapter, arranged on a uniform principle, you will find yourself gradually and easily led on up to the complete text, of which they constitute portions, and of which you will then be prepared to practice as a whole in a similar manner. So you're going to learn in chunks. You're going to learn it in chunks and then start putting it all together. Beware in all this of teasing yourself. I am speaking to the self-teachers, and not having means given you in this part of entering into the various formations of the words which you meet. Learn well which is before you and be content, just as without any knowledge of formations you learn to speak English. As a toddler, your parents probably did not sit down and beat you with a stick until you learned what nominative case was. You don't teach nominative case to toddlers. Stop. It will come in due time. In the second part, a short but sufficient grammar will be found for the use which these exercises, as they stand, will dispose you by creating that intelligent demand for it in your mind, without which it would be a little profit. Babies can't even say nominative. It doesn't make sense. So start in the beginning. Learn these prayers, and then when you encounter the grammatical terms, they're going to make more sense to you, and he still introduces them in a gentle way. You will get better as you go along. Quit beating yourself. Observe, it is not necessary to begin the exercises at Chapter 1, Benediction, which is placed first simply because this is the office most generally joined in as regards singing by our congregations. Each chapter is complete as a whole in itself. You can, again, begin any chapter wherever you want. Boys who serve at Mass begin best at Chapter 3, and members of the choirs who sing at High Mass, Chapter 2. But you could select a single subject, such as the Pater Noster, the Ave Maria, the Alma Redemptoris, and study it yourselves. What follows is intended to assist you in the practice of the exercises by explaining certain especial peculiarities of Latin in which it differs from English, and you may consider it, if you like, a preliminary portion of the short grammar provided in the second part. Again, that's the pronunciation, accentuation, parts of speech in Latin, 8 parts of speech. This is the whole, if you're worried about this, it says noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, adverb, preposition, conjunction, and interjection. That's the whole lesson. That's all you need to start with. The absence of articles. We don't have a, an, and the. Strange as it may seem, there are no words for these in Latin. Consequently, when you translate, you have to put them in yourself. So when it says at right hand, you have to say at the right hand. You have to add in the. Tantum sacramentum, so great sacrament. We add the word a, so great a sacrament. So that may happen that you're going to end up with less words in Latin than the corresponding English sentence. It should not drive you crazy. Because of declensions, pater is a father, patris means of a father, patri is to a father, and patre by a father. So the endings on some of the nouns give you other words. So, of course, Latin's going to have fewer words. The cases of the nouns, it does give those to you so you have the words. You're going to have heard the words, and you may want to refer back to them. Handy dandy table of contents will help you find that, because, again, these are fairly small sections. So what does this look like when I say an exercise? These are the things, the pieces that it wants you to put together. What are these? Okay, how am I going to learn these? I want to learn each of these. Well, I'm going to look at them. I can use my dictionary and try to figure it out myself. You can do that, but it says go to page 12. So in Secula, go to page 12, and let's see, page 12, it says exercise 1 from page 9. It says prepositions and nouns are what we're studying. In the accusative case, and secula means unto ages. So I can come back, look at in secula, and memorize that it means unto ages. The next one is in aeternum. Oh, we just learned in secula was unto ages, so maybe this is unto aeternum. That sounds a lot like eternity. So now I'm going to flip back to page 12. In aeternum means forever. Oh, unto forever. I mean, that makes sense, right? Forever, eternity. Yeah, right. That makes sense. I understand that. Okay, the next one is, number 3 is super nos. Super nos. Now, I know some other languages. Nos, does that mean like hours? What does it mean? Let's look. Super nos. Ah, upon us. Super, super. When something's super, it's better, right? It's higher. It's up. It's upon something. Upon us. Okay, so I've learned that. So I'm going back to looking at 1, 2, and 3. In secula, upon ages. In aeternum, forever. Super nos, upon us. See, I'm learning those pieces, and then we're going to put them together into prayers later. This is very exciting. See, it's not difficult. I'm just flipping back and forth between the pages. In this regard, could having ribbons be helpful instead of just thumbing back and forth? You're not going to want to put the hardcore sticky, the firm sticky tabs. You could have light sticky tabs, or you can add one of those, we've talked about bookmarks on this channel before. The paper clip that you put on the back cover with ribbons in it, that could be something that's appropriate for you here. You could have, again, like your red and your blue maybe. The thing I want to memorize is maybe green, and the red one is like the dictionary, right? It's going to give me the meaning, so maybe I'll use a red ribbon. So green and a red ribbon. Go here. And word meanings here. So that's basically how that book works. It's an easy peasy book. It's not terribly expensive, and you're helping out a good Catholic content creator when you buy that. So that's amazing. So that is just one resource. That one is something that I know Veronica leads choirs, and that's something she's found particularly useful, and that's why she's made it available to us. Now, is that going to help you understand, say, a homily in Latin? No, that's a rare thing to start with, but if you want to understand conversational, this is going to give you a decent start, but you're going to need additional resources, and I can bring some of those up again later. Friends, God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless.